And welcome back to another edition of the Bebo Knows podcast. This is your host, Brian Bullock, and with me today for our annual NFL preview, we have Mr. Seth Byrne. Welcome back, Seth.
Thanks, Brian. Good to be here. How you doing?
I'm doing great. This is always a fun time of the year for me. I know you're not big into the fantasy football stuff, but I've been like looking a lot more into the players the past week just because of that, and I'm obviously always really excited to do this, even if it's just the once a year podcast. But we usually do about two or three a year. But still, this one's probably my favorite, just because the season's upon us, and it's always a fresh new season always brings out a little bit of optimism, no matter who you are. I guess sometimes if you're a Jets or Giants fan, that might not always be the case, but. Um,
No, it actually brings out a sense of pessimism for me, but it is what it is.
So, well, yeah, like I said, welcome back. We're a few days away from the start of the season, and before we dive into the 2022 part of the season, I usually like to have like one or two random topics to discuss. So I'll put a timestamp for those who might just be interested in diving right into 2022. But for now, we'll discuss a couple of random topics here. I usually like to I think these up like months in advance, and sometimes they pan out, sometimes they don't. But the first topic I wanted to bring up, just because it is what defines the league, is the quarterback play, and I know that things have changed in the time that you've watched football in terms of the progression of quarterbacks. They've always been important, but there's certain things that have changed with quarterbacks. In terms of like when you started evaluating quarterbacks, what was important to your evaluations in your initial analysis, and like what are some of the big things that have changed in your analysis or your evaluation as you dive into a season?
So I'm going to be a little bit long-winded here, and I'm going to start with like my childhood and the quarterbacks I can remember. The first quarterback I can remember thinking of as great was Dan Fouts out with, I believe at the time, the San Diego Chargers, and then Dan Marino took what like Fouts was doing and brought it to another level. Like his 1984 season, he threw for 5,000 plus yards, and he was the first one to do it and the only one to do it until the 2000s, although we did not know that at the time. Then there was Joe Montana, who was trained by Bill Walsh to master the West Coast offense, which was ironically originally from Cincinnati. And then you had John Elway. So he did not have the same kind of talent around him. So he was kind of making chicken salad out of whatever. And he took that team to 3 Super Bowls. So he was great just in terms of results. I mean, also he was the number one overall pick in the draft, so we knew he was tremendously talented and he had a cannon. There was Warren Moon. I didn't watch a lot of CFL when I was a kid, but I was aware of Warren Moon since I saw the numbers. They blew me away. And then when he did come to the NFL, he was great to watch. And then there was Steve Young. He of the original, there was Tampa Bay had his rights, and the USFL competed from the USFL, got him for I think a year, and then he went to Tampa Bay, and then Bill Walsh convinced him to come to San Francisco by saying Joe Montana is old, he's in his last year or so, and Young got there, and it didn't look like Montana was old, and so that pissed Young off. But when he finally did get to start, he was kind of awesome. And actually, there was a great quote from one of the linebackers coaches on the New York Giants. I don't remember who it was, but it was something along the lines of sack Montana, but don't hurt him. And I don't remember if it was Taylor or Banks, whoever it was, said, what do you mean don't hurt him? So you do not want to be chasing Steve Young's ass out there all day. So that was the introduction to what Steve Young is capable of, and he was amazing. Yeah, you had a lot of different quarterbacks winning in different ways. But the first guy who broke my mind, that just there was no one I could compare him to, was Randall Cunningham. And there was a picture of him on the cover of the September 11th, 1989 Sports Illustrated, the NFL preview issue. where Dr. Z predicted Buffalo and Chicago. And Cunningham's on the quarter, and he really was the ultimate weapon. That dude, he could throw, he could run. There was a play where, again, the Giants had him sacked not once, not twice, but 3 times, and he avoided them, dodged them, and then he threw for a touchdown. And he was unique. He was special, and there was just another way of playing quarterback now. So to answer the question, in the beginning, you could be a statue like Marino. He was my favorite quarterback. I mean, and then you had Cunningham, who was the absolute opposite. So Marino would beat you with his eyes and his arm. Cunningham would beat you any which way he could. And they played the same position. So that was like, 2 different ways of playing what should be ostensibly a similar position, quarterback. And so in terms of the modern era, my evaluations have changed as defenses have made it harder to win with certain skills. So if you're not mobile these days, you're much more vulnerable to the pass rush, and you don't get the free first downs that some quarterbacks can easily pick up with their legs. And if your arm strength is lacking, then the defense is going to bring a safety up into the box, not to stop the running game, but to take away your short passing game. It's out of sheer disrespect. And your running game will suffer and your short passing game will suffer. And the only way to punish that is by going over the top. And some quarterbacks have more difficulty with that than others. I mean, that's one of the issues that Tua might face this season, even though he's got some of the scariest wide receivers in the league. And then if you're mobile but inaccurate, what defenses will try to take away are the easy passes. And how would I put this? Straight line passes. It's the stuff where they want to make you go to a second read. And they want to put you in a situation where if they want to have someone near the ball, even if they can't make the play, you might throw to them anyway. So this is tough to show without like drawing up actual plays. But so it's one of those things where, again, if you're inaccurate, defenses are going to know, and they're going to be opportunistic against you.
Sure.
And then you have at the other extreme, if you're awesome like Patrick Mahomes, defenses will play high and try to make you matriculate the ball down the field. It's ironic that he plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes is easily my favorite modern QB to analyze because he is so good. He made the defenses react to him. Now, in terms of how things have changed, raw talent is now more important than polish. Josh Allen and Justin Herbert were 2 players that I underestimated pretty severely in both cases, as a matter of fact. And Allen, he was not great for the first 2 years, but then his 3rd year, he took the leap. And that was a huge credit to the Bills coaching staff. And then last year, he regressed. Herbert has been awesome for both of his 2 seasons in the league. He's now looking to make the playoffs. They had the physical skills, but were inaccurate in college. Herbert adjusted quickly. Allen developed. Also, in the case of Allen, adding Diggs helped, Stephon Diggs.
Sure.
But then there's the question of Malik Willis. Like, he was the ultimate toolsy quarterback who did not really succeed well at Liberty, and he had problems with accuracy. But what the hell? He has a cannon. He has legs. He can do anything if you polish him, the diamond in the rough. And so it was a real surprise that he fell to the 3rd round. And then at the other extreme, you have guys who are really polished but physically limited. And they have found some tougher going lately. And Tua is one example. And at this point, he's surrounded by maybe unprecedented team speed, apart from the old Raiders back in the 70s and 80s, the Al Davis days when you just
track
stars.
Yeah.
But now he has actual football players who could blaze. So, like, it's make it or break it for Tua this year. Might be the most interesting quarterback situation in the league now that I think about it. And so it's playoffs for us for him. So that's my general sense. It's been a sense of, if you have the skills and make the throws, we'll teach you how to be a modern NFL QB. But if you don't have the raw talent, there's just not as much we can do. But again, that would have made that the trend would be clearer had Willis gone in the 1st round, or particularly in the top 10, as opposed to round 3. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, and that drop I know surprised a lot of people. I know what was the over under on him, like in the teens or something, I
I
think.
know he was like the over under was in the first round, so like he
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like like the over one the 1.5 thing. How many quarterbacks
Yeah.
have we seen in the first round? I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure over 1.5 was a solid favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, just because of that, I mean, you get to lock them up for the 5 years, and if they're any good, you got them for 5 years, and
Exactly. Like
uh,
if your quarterback is elite, like you want to grab him in the first round because you have that much more leverage.
yeah. So yeah, I thought that maybe a team might trade up toward, like, you're always waiting towards the end of the first round, seeing if somebody will sneak in, like they did, like Baltimore did with Lamar years
Yeah,
ago.
it
But
would
yeah,
not surprise me.
it didn't happen. Okay, so yeah, as far as like a curiosity question I had relating to another quarterback topic that I had was relating to your overall evaluation of players, quarterbacks in terms of, like, for you, um, is your analysis of quarterbacks, like in terms of like how you judge them, pretty fluid? Like, are you do you feel like you could judge them pretty quickly, like within a matter of games, even maybe plays, whether you could decide, like, all right, this guy has something, or this guy you know is dog shit, like, or do you think it might just depend on the quarterback?
So, as I run this thing, they can change fast. Like if you start showing me the ability to make plays and make throws that you couldn't do last year, and the ability to read defenses, I'm going to reevaluate your skills pretty quickly because players can learn; they can get better. Quarterbacks are always rising and falling in America. Decline is usually a slower thing, but if you're an older guy, like I'll be watching Ryan in Indianapolis and Brady, of course, very carefully to see if this is the year their arm is finally falling off.
Sure. Okay. All right, and I did cross this out, but I guess since you wrote a little answer to it, we could just like briefly discuss it. I did have a topic about injury luck, and we don't have to discuss everything that I had mentioned about injury luck, but you did seem to have a note about specifically to stadiums, or a particular stadium that
Two
has
teams play it.
caused the worst of injuries.
So in the millennium, in terms of something called adjusted games lost, which is tracked by Football Outsiders, there have been 671 seasons. It would be 672, but Houston came in 2002. So 671 seasons. And of the top 10 most games lost to injuries, 5 of them occurred in MetLife, teams playing in MetLife Stadium. And MetLife Stadium only opened up in 2010, in April 2010.
Well,
So that is, I haven't run the math on how unlikely it is, but to my mind, it's got to be multiple standard deviations off, which means it's almost certainly not just bad luck. It's bad turf. And that's a problem.
Yeah,
Um,
and I misread that at first. At first I thought it was the old stadium, like back in the 80s or 90s. But this is the brand new one.
Yeah, this is the brand new one. I
Shit.
hated that place from the moment we built it, and this didn't even occur to me. I hated it for other reasons. But now that I know this, I truly despise that stadium.
Yeah, because I know that I remember even as a kid, I would I'd have the local coverage of the Bears in our newspapers, and I remember the Bears getting losing like a couple players at the same game at Veterans Stadium, which was known to be a really bad one.
Yeah,
Um, like, I think Tom Waddle and somebody else got hurt in the same game for the year, and like, I don't know, that was AstroTurf, I think, wasn't it? Or
yeah. I
I don't
mean,
remember.
these turf
Um,
stadiums can be
yeah,
problematic. I mean,
yeah.
it's concrete or whatever it is. It's hard.
So, but yeah, but is MetLife field turf,
You know
or
what? I haven't even looked it up. I don't know, but
okay,
whatever it is,
okay,
the numbers don't lie.
yeah,
You also have a team, the other extreme, the Rams, have done a particularly good job at avoiding serious injuries. Now, the suspicion is it's mostly luck, but there's probably some signal there as well. They're probably doing some things right, not overextending in practices or whatever it is they're doing, but they've been, I don't want to say fortunate, but they've been good about avoiding injuries. And then this
and
year could be the year that Stafford's arm falls off, like he's been having trouble throwing in the preseason. So who knows? The bill may come due.
yeah. Okay. The next small topic here was related to, and I guess this kind of almost merges into 2022 somewhat, but we had the big draft class a couple of years ago, or last year, I guess.
Last year, yeah.
Um,
It
and
built time flat circle. I get it.
it is, yeah. It all, yeah, just blends together. So, there was a bunch of quarterbacks last year. None of them really stood out. I think Mac was like probably the best in terms of like he, at least I'm just thinking of like rookie of the year positioning. I know Chase won it, but I think Jones was the only one that was on a winning team, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they made the
Well,
playoffs.
Lance was, but he didn't play. But Jones was the only one who led a team to the playoffs. So, in terms of like the quarterbacks from the previous draft class, a little discussion on them in terms of who you think is gonna stay where they're at, or who might have the best chance to go up in the rankings there.
All right, let's go in draft order.
Okay.
Trevor Lawrence last year was in an impossible situation. His head coach was a drunken clown who was in over his head. That's just untenable. There's nothing you do about that. So like I'm giving him a full mulligan. I'm treating this as his rookie season and saying, you know what? Last year's water on the bridge. Let's do it. So this year he has a coach who has some sense of how to coach in the NFL. And the team they're actually trying to win. They're not in tank mode. They have their young franchise QB on a rookie contract, and so I'm expecting we're going to see why he was the number one overall pick and why teams are tanking for him. Like there's a shitload of talent there. We're going to see it this year.
Okay.
For number two, for Zach Wilson, literally all I wrote here was sigh. You know what? There's a question later. I'm going to take the listener question right now.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah, from I want to say Fat Music.
Fat Music. Yep. Yeah.
All right, here it is. All right. Besides Rosen, who is the next Josh Rosen? And here's my full answer. I'd like to see Rosen run it back. Somehow convince a team to sign him for $25 million a year and then perform even worse than he did before. But the correct answer is Zach Wilson. So in college, Zach Wilson, the 2 years before he was drafted, he struggled against good defenses. It was a rough season. And then the next year, his offensive line was awesome. He was playing against weaker competition, and he crushed it. And then on that promise that he showed, the Jets drafted him. And there was this nagging worry. All right, well, like you haven't shown you could beat good defenses in college, but you have the skills. So let's do it. And last year, it did not go well. Now, the problem is you're playing on the Jets, and you're playing with Jets wide receivers and Jets offensive linemen and Jets coach, and everything Jets, really. And so that doesn't make it easy. But still, he did not look good. And this preseason, he hurt his knee. My expectations at this point for Wilson are very, very low. And yeah, it could be just because I'm a Jets fan. I could be biased in that sense, but I haven't seen much from him to show me otherwise. Like the film so far has been ew.
Yeah, and this is just this is just me from reading a lot of like fantasy articles, but I have read that like Jets receivers prefer the ball that Flacco throws, which I don't know if you buy into that, or if you heard of anything about that.
The fact that we even have heard that the fact that it got out there is already a bad sign, let
Yeah,
alone possibly being true.
yeah,
So, yeah, I have concerns. Now, let's talk about a team near and dear to your heart, the 49ers and Trey Lance. Now, you said he didn't play last year. He didn't start last year, as far as I know, but he did
yeah.
play.
He started one game. He started
Okay, he did start.
against,
Okay.
or actually, was it one or two? I don't know. I know he played significant amount in this a game against Seattle, and
I'm
then
going to go to the videotape. Hold on one second.
and then they played at home against Houston. They were like, they won that game pretty easily, I think, or at least they kind of pulled away at the end. But I
So,
think it
by
was
my
two
notes,
games,
he made 2 starts. So,
two
yeah.
starts, yeah.
Um,
Um,
so, yeah,
so yeah,
like from what we saw from him, it was actually kind of promising. Yes, there was stuff he couldn't do, but there's also stuff he could do, which is what you want to see. And like the weird thing is, the plan was to get rid of Garoppolo to burn your ships. And the thing is, to get rid of Garoppolo, the 49ers would have had to throw in picks. That was not. So, when you want to sell something and you have a price in mind, let's just say you want to sell something for $1,000, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. $1,000, that's your buy it now price. And people will offer, yeah, give us $20 and we'll take it away for you. Like, it kind of breaks your heart.
yeah,
And that's the kind of situation the 49ers were with Garoppolo. They were looking to get a haul, and then they were looking to get a good pick, and then they were looking to get something, and just none of that ever materialized. Like, whenever your team tells players' agents you're free to seek a trade, that means good luck, we've tried. So
yeah. That kind of reminds me of when like Houston had to throw in picks, or it was it
yeah,
Houston
Brock
had to throw in
Osweiler.
picks for Osweiler, I think,
Yep.
or Denver. Yeah, I don't
That
remember.
was,
I remember the exact trade, but they had to throw in picks.
and that was the situation it looks like the 49ers were in with Garoppolo. The interesting thing is, that's an amazing insurance policy. Like, if Garoppolo's your insurance policy, that's pretty freaking good as a backup. I understand there's reasons you guys don't want to roll with him as the starter. I get it. But, like, God forbid you need someone. That's the best backup you guys could have possibly had heading into the season.
Yeah.
So
I
that may
mean,
work.
and I wouldn't say he led us to 2 out of the last 3
But he was
NFC
there.
title games. But he didn't cost us the chance to do that. Like, he was behind
That's
center.
accurate.
So
That is well put. Now let's talk more about Lance. Lance, we knew that he was going to take some time to get ready. Like, he was coming in from North Dakota State. What are you going to do, guys? So, like, now he's had his year of practice. He's had his year of seasoning. Shanahan has worked whatever magic he can work, and it's go time. And I'm actually expecting pretty good things from him. Like, I liked Lance a lot in college. He's who I would have taken had I been the 49ers in that spot. Like, Fields would have been an A answer, Lance would have been an A+ answer, and Mac Jones would have been an F. So, like, if you remember the drama of that third pick.
you cashed in on that.
Yeah, exactly. But like that's one of those things I'm going to remember. But so yeah, I'm expecting a good season for Lance. I have faith in the 49ers, and I think it may actually really, really help them that Garoppolo came back, because God forbid you need a backup. Yeah, well positioned. And now we come to Chicago. My line here was "Sorry, man," frowny face. So here's the problem with Lance. Fields. He was not drafted by this front office. They feel no compulsion to help him succeed. Like, his success and their jobs are not linked together. Normally it is. Normally when you have a young franchise quarterback and a front office, they are linked together. Not here. So they have done, like most teams, when they have a young quarterback on a rookie contract, they try to help him succeed. Like, if you look what the Dolphins did with Tua, it's an extreme case, but it's the rough idea of, all right, we have a young quarterback, we want to give him wins. Like the Jets took a wide receiver named Wilson, I think Garrett Wilson with the 10th overall pick. They want to help Zach Wilson succeed. Like, teams try to help their young quarterbacks. It's what they do, except in Chicago. Uh, so Fields is not being given the tools I think he needs to succeed. So it's on him. He will have to succeed in spite of the Chicago Bears, and that's a tough thing to ask for a young quarterback.
Yeah, and I didn't. Yeah, and I quite frankly didn't understand how Pace was given the opportunity to pick his second franchise quarterback, which is like how often does a GM get a chance to pick to fail on a second quarterback, or usually that it's
usually you only get a chance to fail a second time if you already succeeded once and you've been there for 20 years.
Yeah.
That's not the boat Pace was in, so it was really odd.
Yeah. And then one more here.
And now we have Mac Jones. So I thought Jones did a good job last season. He was who we thought he was. He was able to make accurate throws, read defenses when given fairly simple reads. Like the coaching staff, Bill Belichick and the coaches, they did a nice job of helping Mac Jones succeed. But he also was able to make the throws, and he did that. He did his part too. So team effort, team game, everyone did their jobs. Now this preseason, there's been a lot of sturm and drag out of New England that the offense looks absolutely terrible. Now, I don't know if this is just preseason noise or random variance, but there is a potential concern that Lance is limited as a quarterback. He doesn't have the tools the first four guys I just mentioned have. And so defenses might now be taking away the throws he made last year and forcing him to evolve. And that's what happens. There's the cat and mouse game between quarterbacks and defenses, where quarterbacks show what they can do. Defenses say, all right, we know you can do that. We're not going to allow you to beat us like that anymore. Now you got to beat us a different way. And some quarterbacks can, and we're going to see if Jones can. So my best guess is that Trevor Lawrence and Trey Lance take a big step this year. So yeah, and you also, by the way, asked me somewhere about like the quarterbacks in the draft.
Yes, yeah, I did.
I'm so horrible with names. I know Stroud from Ohio State is one, although let's have a brief aside on Ohio State quarterbacks. I was a big fan of Fields. I was a big fan of Haskins. And I'm probably going to be a big fan of Stroud when it comes to my 2023 draft preview and stuff. But Ohio State quarterbacks have not been lighting the NFL on fire. So just a thought. In any event, this is a really deep year for quarterbacks. There's like 5 that if they have good seasons, they could be the first overall pick. So deep draft for quarterbacks.
Yeah, so. I think I had phrased it like who's like who are we tanking for or something like that. So,
I don't know there's anyone specific right now. We just know there's going to be someone. So one of these 5 quarterbacks is going to have a good season, take a leap, show some more development, and be the guy.
Yeah, and it won't be the worst year to be like maybe 3rd, 4th, 5th.
Yeah, this is actually going to be a deep draft for quarterbacks. At least right now, it looks like to be. Now, the best laid plans in September could look kind of silly in April when these guys flame out, and there's maybe 1 or 2 guys. So who knows? But that's how things look now.
Yeah, and nobody really saw the Burrow leap
exactly
when that happened. So you just never know. Okay, I did mention something about preseason, but like I said, I'll save that. It's really not too crucial. But
we're going to talk about the preseason with one of the listener questions later anyway. So
yeah. So so there's some 2022 questions before we get into your division by division preview here. But so I actually had this question written down before Clytus actually asked too, but I had a question relating to like the teams and the players who you think have the biggest variance or widest range of potential outcomes for this year.
So there's a lot of quarterbacks that could either just turn it on or show that they can't. Like just in the AFC East, all 4 quarterbacks have a wide range of outcomes. Miami with Tua, like again, he's got the weapons around him for that offense to be a Ferrari or Lamborghini, but they might have a Mazda Miata as their quarterback. Who knows? Um, the Jets with Wilson. This is his second year. All right, you took your rookie lumps. Now it's time to show us what you can do. They gave him a new wide receiver to work with. So, like, we're going to see with Wilson. And in terms of the Buffalo Bills, they're the AFC favorites, and Allen 2 years ago was awesome. Like, so his first 2 years, not so great, although better the second year than the first. Third year, awesome. Fourth year, last year, regressed quite a bit. He was still good, but he wasn't great the way he was 2 years ago. And so now is the question of, can he get back? Like, that loss to Jacksonville was inexplicable. And then we have Mac Jones, who, yeah, he showed he can be good. Can he maintain that? Can he still be good? And can he improve it all? In terms of the AFC North, that's the thing. There's always range. Like Lamar Jackson, he wants to show he can have playoffs because he's playing for a monster deal. He wants to join the modern quarterbacks in the whatever X millions of dollars and X guaranteed is. You have Pickett. Actually, you have a fun quarterback situation in Pittsburgh with Trubisky and Pickett. Like I like seeing both those guys there. I'll be curious to see what they can produce. Then we have Cincinnati, Burrow. Like last year, Cincinnati was mostly an average team for the regular season. It was in the playoffs. I mean, they had a good record. They also had a soft schedule, and they turned it on in the playoffs. And like now, Burrow, it's a question: can he and Chase and the rest of them? They've improved their offensive line, which will help. But can he be a guy? Can he be one of the elites? And can their team just be one of those regular season monsters as well, week in, week out? And then what do we got? I should just open up one of these. 1 second. Yes, Cleveland. Yeah, let's not worry so much about Jacoby Brissett, and Watson's going to show up after 11 games, and they're going to be in that situation where, all right, are we tanking or are we trying to make a playoff run? So that's their variance. But like, what do we have? Houston, they're in the tank mode. Indianapolis, Ryan, do you still have gas left in the tank? If so, they could be one of the AFC favorites. If not, they could just miss like they did with Wentz. Jacksonville, again, we talked about Lawrence. He should be much better. Tennessee, so like they were the 1 seed last year, but they weren't actually a good football team. That's kind of weird and embarrassing for the rest of the AFC, but they bullshitted their way to the 1 seed.
Yeah, they lost to some really bad teams.
Yeah. Jets. So like they were not a great team. And like now Derrick Henry has a shitload of mileage on him. And Tannehill has not proven he can be elite, even if they again got the 1 seed. Variance. Every team is embracing the variance. Like Denver with Russell Wilson last year is hurt and he did not have a great season. This year he's now with a new team, hopefully a better offensive line. He's got plenty of weapons. Kansas City with Mahomes. Now he's got a problem. He's got to work without Tyreek Hill, and their schedule is ridiculous. Vegas, baby. They're actually one of those teams where I kind of feel like they're just mediocre. They're good. They're not great. They're fine. Last year, fine was good enough to sneak into the playoffs. Again, soft schedule really helps. This year, it's going to be a little harder. And then you have the Chargers. It's like Justin Herbert. Like they had a chance to make the playoffs and they lost in Vegas. And this year, they face a much softer schedule than the Kansas City Chiefs. And again, with only 3 games different or 5 games, depending on how you view the head-to-head. And like this is a team that really should be able to make a run, but like their roster's a little odd. I'm going to go the written version in my NFL preview will go into this more, but basically they had some weaknesses and they didn't try to fill them the way a normal team might. Dallas Cowboys, like they've lost 2 wide receivers and their left tackle, and like Dak was hurt for most of the season. Like before he got hurt last season, Dak was killing teams. The Cowboys were possibly the best team in the NFL pre-Dak injury. And then after he got hurt, their offense was just mediocre. So we're going to see what he can do now that he's lost so many of his trustable teammates. The Giants, they're in those weird situations where, like, the quarterback and the running back are playing for new contracts. The front office would kind of want to lose, but the new front office, and they want to impress ownership, so they kind of want to win too. Like the new head coach and stuff, they want to make a good first impression. And also, like, they were really embarrassed by Coach Joe Judge last year, and they do not want their team to be an embarrassment this year. So they might actually be trying to go 7-10, which keeps you away from drafting those elite quarterbacks, and like it's mediocrity the entire way around. But that's kind of the way things are lined up for them. It's kind of weird. But again, who knows? Variance thing. Maybe they go 8-9. Maybe they get lucky. The Eagles, all right. So they have this situation with Hurts and Minshew and a really good roster. Like, that's the thing. If you're really a smart GM and you make good trades and you draft well and stuff, you can build a good roster. Spend your money well, trade down in a couple of years, and then you acquire picks and then use them well. Like, it can be done if you've given time, money, effort, and skill. But finding a quarterback is hard. It's a challenge. And so they've got Jalen Hurts and they've got Gardner Minshew, and they play in a weak division. So, like, the Eagles, they made the playoffs last year. They could win the division this year. They could go in and run this year. But having Hurts and Minshew as the guy leading it makes it that much harder. And then the Commanders, they signed Wentz. Like, my comment on Wentz, lol, like, yeah. Good luck with that. If Wentz could do it, he'd still be in Indianapolis. Hell, he'd still be in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So then you have the Bears, where they might be stealth tanking. They might be actually trying to screw things up, like not give Fields the tools to win so they can get a high draft pick and then draft their quarterback in the future, which is kind of sad if you think about it, but whatever. Detroit Lions, I love their head coach, Campbell. Like, I know having Goff as your quarterback limits you, and the Lions roster was so bad years ago, and they're still trying to dig out of that hole. I think they're kind of doing a decent job of it, but it's going to take time. But I like where they're going for the future. I don't think there'll be anything in the present. The Packers, their variance comes from the fact that they've lost Adams, which now means their wide receiver core has an Adams-sized hole in it. Like, they don't have a true number one wide receiver now. And, like, the greatest rivalry in sports might be Aaron Rodgers versus his front office. There's no love lost there. So, like, they won 39 games over the last 3 seasons, which I don't think has ever been done before. Just a great run. Maybe the Patriots did it, but I don't think so. It's hard to win that many games over 3 seasons, but not much in the way of playoff success. They've gone 2-3 over that time with 2 home losses. So, like, the Packers, I feel like their window is closing. Rodgers is a year older. And the offensive roster is that much weaker without Adams. The Vikings, like, Kirk Cousins, you're good. You're not great, but you're good. Like, he's one of those guys who always does well when you look at him statistically. But why not playoff success? Why not even more regular season success? And so that's the thing with Cousins. Falcons, they're also in the tankathon. Like, they've got Mariota. Like, them and the Texans, it's a fair fight. And then you have the Carolina Panthers. So they have this thing where they drafted Matt Corral. They had Darnold left over in the roster. And they traded for, and they got Baker Mayfield to take a pay cut, like, to try and bring the Panthers to, so he could start again, basically, because he knew that his time in Cleveland, it was not going well. And I think they could be really frisky. I think the Panthers could be a good team. Like, this is a team that if you look at the roster and if Baker doesn't get hurt, they could win 10 games. The Panthers have a real chance, but they could also suck, particularly if Baker gets hurt, or if he's still physically compromised. If he's not the Baker he was when he came in the league, like, he played hurt for quite a while, and they might have done long-term damage. I'm not a doctor. I don't know. I don't see him practice. But again, fully healthy, I've got a lot of faith, and if not, things could go real bad real fast. Jameis Winston has actually, quietly, when no one was looking, he turned himself into a real NFL quarterback. He's no longer this 30-30 guy who throws 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions in the season. He's smarter. He still has got a good arm. Like, this might be the year he finally shows why he was the number one overall pick in the draft. A little late, but like, no Sean Payton, the Saints might be really, really good if you're talking about embracing the wins.
Yeah, and I know that Winston got some love after week one because I think he threw the 5 touchdowns in the first week last year. That was pretty much it for him as far as last year goes. But I'd be interested. And that was like on 140 something yards against the Packers. It was like really, not going to happen very often, especially with.
I understand, but they get like Michael Thomas back, and they added Chris Olave, or however you pronounce his last name. Like this Saints team, they could actually be the team to beat in that division. I know everyone's expecting to be Tampa Bay. I'm expecting to be Tampa Bay, but like, so Tampa Bay has their own issues. First of all, their offensive line, they've had injuries. Last season, you might remember Wirfs getting hurt against the Eagles, which kind of screwed them for the next week against the Rams. They need him. He's been awesome. But like, Brady's 45, no more Gronk. Gronk was still a productive player, even to the bitter end. And so this Bucs team is not the team that they were. Now, their defense might end up being what leads them. They do have a good-looking defense. But Brady's 45. When you're 45, your right shoulder, your right arm, it's not necessarily what it was when you were a kid. Even last year when he was awesome. Like last year he was great, but you can get old fast. That's one of the things I learned when I saw Fouts. Like 1 year Fouts was great, and the next year he was kind of pedestrian. So,
yeah, we keep waiting for it, and it's like we have no point of comparison historically. So it's like we don't really know when it's going to happen. We know it's going to happen. We just don't know when.
I've got like 5 or 6 years of Brady like getting old blue balls. Okay. So like I'm still open, still waiting. And now one of these years. And Arizona, I feel like Arizona has missed their window. I think they missed their shot. I feel like with Kyler Murray and that offensive scheme, I think defenses at this point have a decent read of what he can do, what they're trying to do. I'm a little down on them. The Rams, embrace the variance in your elbow, man. If Stafford's elbow doesn't work, they could be in what we'd call the lottery in the NBA. They could be one of those early round picks.
Sure.
The 49ers, like, they're starting a second-year quarterback who we've seen very little from. So that's an embracing the variance moment right there. But I've got a lot of faith in them. This is a good roster. There's a reason they've been like 2 of the last 3 NFC Championship games. This is a tough team.
Yeah, and not to, and I don't know how, I haven't followed it super closely, but I think I follow the Niners on Twitter, and I do know that like they have a lot of players in the NFL like top, and I know it's just player rankings, so it's take that with a grain of salt, but they have a lot of like players in the top 50 or 60 overall in that list. And like I said, take that with a grain of salt, but they still have a lot of really good players, even if Lance is just average.
Right. They do have a good roster, and they have, again, the best insurance policy in the NFL with Garoppolo. So
yeah, it's weird to say that, but yeah, it's I wasn't sure how I felt about him just kind of sticking around, but I do think that they invested too much. They traded too many picks away for them not to play Lance this year, regardless.
Yeah.
So
getting Garoppolo to take that pay cut was a big deal.
Yeah, and now you have to see what you traded for, regardless of I mean, he could look bad for a year, and then you could pull him, but you have to at least play him for a certain amount of games before you can say this isn't what we wanted. But you have to play him. Had to play him.
If the 49ers start 0-2, you might not have to play him. Although you open up at Seattle at Chicago and then home against Seattle, So I don't think you're opening up 0-2.
But actually, yeah, that would be a really bad 0-2.
That would be a
Um,
really bad 0-2.
yeah, that's not like playing the Chiefs and the Bengals or something back to back weeks on the road or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, you should win both of those games over half the time, I would think. Um, so